I planned, actually, on my birthday, November 17th, to announce that I was leaving at the end of the year. But it's become clear to me that this prolonged leadership turmoil would do irreparable harm to the institution.
File this one under the heading, "You wanted it, you got it." There's been a lot of heat on Capitol Hill for Speaker of the House John Boehner to take a hike and start cleaning out some of the stodgy old guard from the GOP leadership. The Speaker apparently decided to take the hint. And now the grand old party has been thrown into an upheaval that has Democrats wringing their hands with glee. Perhaps far too soon to celebrate. Let's dig into what's behind the departure and what might be ahead. Welcome first, the former general counsel to John Boehner, veteran House and Senate lobbyist, and managing partner at the D.C. law firm Brownstein, Hyatt, Farber, and Schreck, Marc Lampkin. Marc, it's good to talk to you again, and I guess let's go ahead and dig right in. Did John Boehner get out before he was publicly and embarrassingly pushed?
I don't think it's as simple as that, Ed. Well, first of all, so thank you for having me, but I don't think it was as simple as that. I think John has always said that he's going to live by his principles, conservative principles, and that he is committed to making sure that the institution of the House, that the Congress, works. And I think he decided that he did not want to be a distraction to the process of governing, and that he decided that all the upheaval around people who wanted to oust him, kind of the sharks who are lying in wait in the waters, was not worth it compromising the values that he had brought to Congress for 25 years, the values that he had brought as Speaker. It's interesting to note, though, as much as I think some people believe that this is a victory, I don't believe there's at all any greater likelihood that the priorities that the conservative Tea Partiers wanted yesterday are going to be more likely to happen tomorrow, because the one fact remains in place is that Barack Obama is still the president, that he, despite the fact that we have congressional majorities in both chambers, is that more importantly, all of the priorities that the Tea Partiers still so desperately want have to have the acquiescence with whomever sits in the Oval Office, and Barack Obama has made it clear that he does not intend on giving them what they want.
All right, now
so
there's
there may be
two
a short-term victory.
No, that's good. Two things you mentioned that I want to make sure we hit on. A couple of minutes that we have left here. It was just 2 weeks ago that Speaker Boehner said he continued to have overwhelming support in the House. Let's listen, because here's exactly what he said.
There's the impression with the Meadows resolution that you are not in control right now. Can you?
No, I have broad, widespread support amongst my members. We saw it yesterday. You probably read about the fact yesterday afternoon there was a large standing ovation amongst our members for the fact that I have this job and what I have to put up with to keep it.
So, Marc, when he says he had widespread support, now knowing what we know today, can we not just say at this point that was all just smoke and mirrors?
No, because the fact is, if you go back to his last re-election as Speaker of the House floor, and if you look at the number of people who are actually calling for his ouster, it's still a significant a minority of the House Republican Conference. The vast majority of Republicans in the House support the Speaker, but then unfortunately there's been a small but vocal and really obstinate minority of members who would have made a spectacle of the institution. Just imagine, literally days after the Pope addresses and talks about renewed civility, talks about working together for a greater common good, you would have had a group of 30 or 40 members who would have said, we want to shut down the government, that we believe despite the facts in front of us, that we're going to hold everyone else hostage. And I think John took the high road, the ultimate selfless sacrifice to say, I'm going to step aside because I think what's important is that we govern in the way that the American people sent us here to govern, and not to create a hostile atmosphere that allows us to do things like shut down the government but not be responsive to what people need. So it's a small group of people, but still a small minority of the House can exert a significant amount of noise in circumstances like this.
So let's say this. I have about a minute left here. I want to use your words, too, and make sure we get to this. That small, vocal, obstinate group of members here, and you mentioned the Tea Partiers. In your opinion, then, have they just made a huge mistake in getting John Boehner to leave, and have they opened this up for a greater Democratic attack?
Well, certainly. I think it all depends what happens in the days and weeks ahead to come. But, certainly some of us who've lived through shutting down the government, which the Speaker had back in the 90s and again, a couple, 3 years ago, realize that shutting down the government, ultimately what happens is that people get a lot of the self-congratulatory activity, but at the end of the day, you can't bend the will of the President of the United States. And I think that's the unfortunate thing. I think we now will have a period of distraction from prosecuting issues about the outrageous things that Planned Parenthood does, about we lose sight of the reduction in spending that we could achieve, because we're going to have, the news will be dominated in this next several weeks about the intrigue of leadership and in the intrigue of how John Boehner came to leave, as opposed to prosecuting attacks against liberal policies, about the excesses of the Obama administration. So ironically, the people that believe that they're carrying forward an ideological and purist agenda really set back the movement of progress, because we're going to be focusing on things that frankly don't appeal to what the American people are anxious about. Is about sending representatives to Washington to actually govern and to get things done.
Yes or no, they'll live to regret this day?
I think they may not, because sometimes they are so blinded by their own white fury that I don't believe that they have the understanding to understand that they made a mistake. But I think history will show that this was probably not a good deal for the American people, and certainly not a good deal for the Republican Party or the people of the country.
Tough words from one who has been on the inside. Marc Lampkin, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.